to look at your eyes, to look at your face. Cheers and smile. Please, please smile. Please. I haven't seen it for the last 2 years. All the smile was inside the mask. And also, please say cheers. Cheers. Think of the whiskey. Cheers. And now you have to sing with me. I'm kidding. There's a song, Celebra la vida, segundo a segundo, nada se guarda, todo se brinda. It's a Spanish song. It's a Latin American song. It's by, you can go into YouTube and see. It's called Celebra la vida, means celebrate life. You got it. Celebrate life, second to second. Don't hold anything. Give out everything. Celebra la vida. So I guess after having gone through this COVID horrible experience, every day when you get up in the morning, you should say cheers. And you should sing, celebra la vida. We are alive. And we are looking to the future. Celebrate life. Celebra la vida. The title of my talk is, International Affairs, Myth, Truth, and Magical Realism. Myth, truth, magical realism. It is MTMR. Does it sound like Rajamouli's film? RRR? Rise, roar, revolt. Or Rajamouli, Rama Rao, and Ramcharan. Does it sound like that? MTMR and International Affairs. But both the RRR of Rajamouli and the MTMR, both are somewhat similar. Both want to fool all of us. Both are similar, but also they are somewhat different. Both are shows, similar shows, but they have some differences. The RRR is a film of 3 hours, but the MTMR of International Affairs is like a serial. It's everyday serial. Every day you open the newspapers or put on the TV or put on your computer. It comes, you can't avoid it. It's a non-stop, never-ending, everyday show, the MTMR. But of course, the scenery changes. One day it's in Afghanistan, next day it's in Ukraine, another day it's in Venezuela. The scenery changes, the actors change, but the show goes on. And for the Rajamouli's show, to watch it, you pay what, $50, $100? But for the MTR shows, the big ones, we pay very high price, like 100 rupees for petrol for the Ukraine show. Or your cooking oil is 50% more, 200 rupees sunflower oil because of the Ukraine show. And the investment for the RRR show is how much? $75 million. The guy made $150 million plus. But the investment in this big budget blockbuster international affairs MTMR shows are in big bucks, billions of dollars, trillions of dollars. Like the Americans are giving a finance of $50 billion for the Ukraine show. They spent $2 trillion for the Afghanistan show, which went on for 20 years. They have spent $6 trillion. You know what is a trillion? Million is 60, billion is 90, and trillion is 12 zeros. So the Americans have spent $6 trillion since 9/11 on many shows. RRR was produced by Raja Mouli, few actors, but MTMR of International Affairs, it is crowdsourced. You have actors, directors, choreographers from around the world. And it goes on. Now, how many of you have seen this film RRR? Can you please show? Okay, still I see more hands not raising. I think people should be very serious, I guess. Obsessed with preparations, crazy about the preparatory work. But I think you need to relax a bit. So I would suggest that for those of you who don't see RRR, you should have your own show, another triple R show. Relax, roar, and rejoice. Relax, roar, and rejoice. Because your civil service exam is like a 100-meter dash. It's a running race of 100 meters. So before the race, you need to relax, keep your limbs loose and relaxed, and then roar. Come to the finishing line. But even if you don't win, the very fact that you participated, you competed, you had so much of adrenaline, so much of new experience, that journey, that itself should be a matter to rejoice. So relax, roar, and rejoice. So in addition to your cheers, celebra la vida, you should add this triple R. What is that? That's it. Okay. Now we will go to the main show, the MTMR of International Affairs. Now, International Affairs is an easy and interesting subject, but a bit intriguing and a bit tricky. And your sources of international affairs are newspaper headlines, talk shows in the TV, statements by leaders, and declarations in the summit meetings of presidents, prime ministers. But you have to read between the lines. You have to check not only what is written or said, you have to check what is not said, what is not written in the declaration. So that is where the subject of international affairs becomes even more interesting. Now we come to the MTMR. The first M is myth. Myth, you all know, Ramayana, Mahabharata, tall tales and stories which feed your beliefs, your faith, folklore, tradition, culture, literature, myth, mythology. What is truth? Truth is what you see. Facts, figures, you can fact check them. You can verify. It's based on evidence. There's a famous Argentine president called Juan Perón, P-E-R-O-N, Perón, in the 50s. There's a famous quote which he said, la única verdad es la realidad. La única verdad es la realidad. Anyone understand Spanish here? You understand? Okay. Means the only truth is reality. You can bullshit people about how great a country is, but reality speaks for itself. Okay, we have seen what is myth, what is truth. Now, what is this magical realism? Magical realism is between the myth and the truth. It blurs the line between the myth and the truth. It plays with your mind, it teases your mind by mixing magic with realism. It blurs the line between fantasy and reality, between fiction and fact. Reality and truth are exaggerated and embellished to make them look fantastic. Truth and reality are exaggerated and embellished to make them fantastic. At the same time, fantasy and magic is narrated in a realistic tone to fool you into believing that that is reality, that is the truth. Are you confused now? That's the idea. But in literature, there is a domain of literature. There's a genre, a type of literature called magical realism. You might have heard of it became famous in Latin America. It is the signature contribution of Latin America to the world literature, magical realism. You have famous writers like Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Isabel Allende, Luis Borges, Mario Vargas Llosa. Has anyone read any of these books? Anyone? Only one. Good. Don't worry. When I was your age, I never heard of them. I read only later. I got exposure later. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, his famous book, he got Nobel Prize. He's a Colombian writer. His famous book, 100 Years of Solitude, is a typical example of magical realism. Even sometimes our Salman Rushdie writes kind of magical realism. There's anyone from Kerala here, Vijayan, he writes Kakinda Desam. What's that? Kasakinda Ittikasam. Yes, magical realism. Now, Gabriel Garcia Marquez is the most famous exponent of this magical realism. He himself has illustrated this magical realism, what it is. Once he was interviewed in the TV. The interviewer asked him about his literary productions, his political views. He was a bit Marxist. About his perspectives on international affairs. Then at the end, he said, Senor Marquez, can I ask you some personal questions? Sure, go ahead. Hombre, man, you go ahead. The interviewer asked Marquez, Senor Marquez, do you smoke? Marquez said, no. And he asked, Senor Marquez, do you drink? No. Then he raises the level. He says, Senor Marquez, do you do drugs? No. And this guy raises it even further. Senor Marquez, do you do etc.? Marquez says, no. So this interviewer, he wouldn't give up like Arnab Goswami. So he says, come on, don't try to bullshit us. I mean, no one is perfect in the world. Everyone has got some vice or other. Huh? So tell me, what is yours? He said, sometimes I lie. Sometimes I lie. So now you're confused. Huh? You don't know if he really drinks, if he does, etc. We don't know. In fact, he even had a saying that everyone has got three lives: a public life, a private life, and a secret life. And after his death, they found that he had an illegitimate daughter, a Mexican film producer, born out of an affair with a Mexican woman writer. That is his secret life. You see, sometimes he was lying. And, Marquez used to live in Mexico because Colombia became dangerous because of this narco terrorism and kidnapping. Once he was invited for dinner by the president of Mexico, who was a fan of Marquez. And the Mexican president had invited other writers. And one of them was Mario Vargas Llosa. Heard of him? He's a Nobel Prize winner from Peru. Marquez is senior. He got the Nobel Prize much earlier. Llosa, his name is Llosa. Mario Vargas, we say Llosa, LL, or they say Llosa. Or the Argentines would say Shosa. They all say. This guy won Nobel Prize later, around 2010, 11, around that time. But they had a rivalry going beyond literature. And the rivalry became so fierce that in one of the parties, they even physically fought with each other. And you know over what? I leave it to your imagination. Why do men fight? When Marquez was getting down from the car, going to the palace, and he saw Jose also got down from his car, and he was also walking. And Jose always had a complex, inferiority complex vis-a-vis Marquez. So he runs up to Marquez and says, "Hey, hola, amigo. Uh, I want to have a small bet with you." Go ahead. I said, let us see who steals more spoons from the dinner tonight, from the banquet. Let's see who steals more. So Marquez couldn't say no. When he was challenged, he said, yes. So they enter the banquet hall, and but Marquez, being a senior writer, so the Mexican president makes him sit right next to him. And Jose, being junior, is put in a corner there. Okay. So first course starts with the soup. So Marquez is doing this, and that guy has put the spoon inside quickly after taking this. Then the second course, starter, salad. So he finishes slowly talking, but the other guy finishes fast, put one more spoon, 2. Then the main course, 3. And then the dessert, 4. So the guy has already got 4 spoons. Poor Marquez has no spoons. And then coffee time arrives. So everyone is served coffee. So Marquez scratches his head and says to himself, oh, I must do something. The guy already has got 4 spoons. So he takes his the coffee spoon and knocks on the wine glass and says, Your Excellency, the President of Mexico, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a small Colombian magic. Everyone looks at, what is this Colombian magic? So he shows this little coffee spoon. You see here? Spoon, coffee spoon. Okay? Now you see, I put in my pocket. Okay? All of you have seen. So one coffee spoon is in my pocket. He calls the waiter. Waiter, go to that guy, Mario Vargas Llosa, and see in his pocket. You'll find 4 of them. And sure, the waiter takes out the 4, gone. And when they come out, this guy has 1 spoon, the other guy has no spoon. That is magical realism. Now, since mixing of myth with truth and fooling everyone with the magical realism is the game played in international affairs, let's start with one of the episodes in international affairs. Let's start with Latin America. Let's start with Venezuela. Can I have some water? Okay. I assure you, this is only water. Let's start with Venezuela. Now, let me ask you a question. Who is the president of Venezuela? Anyone? Well, we should be reading news, headlines, Summit of the Americas. Not to worry, he's not a famous guy. His name is President Maduro, Nicolas Maduro. He is the president of Venezuela. He is a Sai Baba follower. Maduro is recognized as the president of Venezuela by the United Nations. But United States and some 50 countries, mainly the European Union, plus some fringe countries from Latin America and others, they do not recognize Maduro as the president of Venezuela. There's another guy called Juan Guaido. They say he is the actual interim president of Venezuela, and this guy doesn't exist. We don't recognize. We don't have diplomatic relations. Now, what is the truth in this? What is the myth in this? What is the magical realism in this? That's why you have to go behind the news headlines. You have to read between the lines. Now, the truth is this Maduro, who was president after Chavez, you heard of Chavez, who was earlier president of Venezuela? Okay. Maduro, he conducted an election in 2018 and completely rigged it. It was a fraudulent election. And he got himself re-elected as the president of Venezuela. But the Americans don't like him because he's a socialist. He talks about distribution of wealth. He's anti-American and he's close to Putin. So they don't like him. So they say, no, we don't recognize you. It's a fraudulent election. You rigged the election. So you're not the president. So they went and talked to a guy called Juan Guaido, who was the president of the assembly, like a parliament. And he was not even a losing candidate. At least you can choose a guy who lost the election and say that he lost because of the fraud. No. They said this guy, because the election, he rigged the election, he is not the president. Since he is not the president, so the president of the assembly, he should become automatically the president. He is the interim president. He is our man, Juan Guaido. So they say he is the president. And the Americans imposed sanctions on Venezuela. Very severe, punitive sanctions. Stopping their imports and exports, foreign exchange movements, and crippling their oil production. Venezuela can produce 3.5 million barrels per day. Can easily replace the Russian oil. But they don't allow other people to buy Venezuelan oil. Earlier, United States was the largest market for Venezuelan oil. And even India was buying about $10 billion worth of Venezuelan oil in 2014. At one time, they were the fourth largest supplier of oil. But last year, we bought zero oil because Reliance and Rosneft are afraid of the American sanction. They stopped. And they don't allow the multinational companies to work in the in Venezuelan oil production. So the production was cut down from about 3.5 million barrels per day to 500,000 barrels per day last year. And the country was in serious trouble, economic trouble, high inflation, and the economy has collapsed. So they punished them very, very severely with sanctions, like right now they are doing with Russia. And then they made this other guy as the president. And he was very happy becoming president, but without a throne. So he appointed ambassadors to Argentina, to United States and United Kingdom, and said, I am the president, these are my ambassadors. And they were recognized by, I said, 50 countries, United States and others. But that guy need money to appoint ambassadors, to pay salaries. So where do you go for money? The Venezuelan government had a lot of funds in the American banks. They froze them. The Venezuelan government had an oil company called Citgo, which was doing refining and distribution of petrol and petroleum products in America, and also they were exporting. They froze their assets. And then they allowed this guy Guaido to dip his hands into this money. Say, please help yourself. So he and his friends, they helped themselves with this money which was frozen in American banks. And flying his own flag that I am the president of Venezuela. And he's not recognized by the United Nations. Fine. The Americans not only not recognized him, but they forced everyone, including India, don't buy oil from him. Okay. If you are paying $100 plus for the barrel of oil, it's not only because of Ukraine crisis, it's because these Americans have stopped, virtually crippled the production of Venezuela and also that of Iran. Okay, that they don't say. They say your price has gone up because of Ukraine, because of Russia. They are the rascals. So the story so far is okay. So the Americans don't like Maduro. They made another guy as president, and they have crippled and punished Venezuela. Fine. But now in United States, the oil price has gone up. It was about $3 a gallon. Now it has gone $5 a gallon. So the people are upset. And President Biden is afraid that they will punish the Democrats in the elections which are coming up in November. So they need votes. They don't want the voters to be displeased and angry. So they want to bring down the price of oil for themselves, not for you. And earlier, they were importing 800,000 barrels of oil per day from Russia. Okay, now they stopped. So it has to be replaced. So the American administration goes quietly to Maduro and says, hey, can you do some business? Can you please increase your production? And that guy says, you stopped all the companies, nobody is working here. He said, don't worry, we'll give license to Chevron. So he increased the production. So they are talking to him. Not only that, they had, if you are reading newspapers, you might have heard of something called Summit of the Americas. One of these summits where the presidents of United States, Canada, and 19 Latin American countries and 14 Caribbean countries, they all came on one platform called Summit of the Americas. They had a beautiful, pious, moral declaration about democracy, human rights, and their commitment to noble ideals of peace, all bullshit. Okay? So for this Summit of the Americas, they did not invite President Maduro, understandably, because he is an autocrat, he is not a democrat. And along with him, they also did not invite Cuba, Nicaragua. They are also kind of authoritarian countries. Fine. But then they dumped their friend, Guaido also. He was expecting invitation. He was expecting to be at the high table with everyone. and he was dumped because they want to quietly get oil from Venezuela back to United States like in the good old days. So this is the magical realism played by United States, one of the episodes in this serial of international affairs. Let me come out of Latin America. Now let me ask you a question. What is the capital of China? Hmm? Okay. But if I had asked this question to your counterparts in Guatemala or in Paraguay or in Honduras or Taiwan, they would have said Taipei. Because 13 countries in the world, mainly from Latin America and Caribbean, they do not recognize China. They have diplomatic relations with Taiwan. Why? They give money. Huh? So money is a better motivator than many other things for the smaller countries. So you might think that it is funny. How can, such a big country like China, the superpower, not being recognized by these crazy, strange 13 countries like Paraguay and Guatemala? Who cares? No, you must care, because after the Second World War, China was inducted into the United Nations and even into the UN Security Council. Chiang Kai-shek, the president, he was there. But then the communists led by Mao overtook China. They overran and drove Chiang Kai-shek to Taiwan. Happened in 1949. And the Americans said, this Taiwan is the real China. The other one, you see, the mainland China, the big country, oh no, it doesn't exist. It's just magic. This is the real China. So from 49 to 1971, the Americans told the world that there is only one China, and that is called the real China of Chiang Kai-shek, Taiwan. That is the real China, the Republic of China. And the other one doesn't exist. That was magical realism. Even we were at the time supporting that China should be admitted into the United Nations because you can't hide them forever. But the Americans were angry. So for 12 years, there was this magical realism that China was only Taiwan. The other big China did not exist, did not count. And then 71, President Nixon and Henry Kissinger, they thought, to contain their main enemy, Soviet Union, they should go and split China from Soviet Union. They should cultivate them and they should make them divide and rule, make them fight with each other. So they made a secret visit to Beijing through Pakistan. They went there and said, hey guys, come, we will ask our companies to come and invest here. You will get dollars. Your people will get jobs. So please, join us. Don't be on the side of Soviet Union. So the Chinese said, why not? Yeah, please send your General Motors and Microsoft and all the companies. Yeah, sure. They did that. And then they established diplomatic relations. And then after 71, the Americans tell everyone, hey guys, forget about Taiwan. Taiwan doesn't exist. No. It's only, this is the real China. Okay. So out of the 193 countries in the United Nations, now 180 countries change sides and they say this is the real China, and that does not exist, except for those 13 countries which recognize the other China, Taiwan, but not this one. And the Americans say that whenever you do recognize China, China puts a condition that one China policy. You should say there's only one China. There's no other China. So everyone, including us, say, there's only one China. Okay? But the Americans sell billions of dollars of arms and ammunition to Taiwan to protect themselves from China. Okay? We all have trade offices. We don't have embassies, even we. Okay? So here is a situation where one day there was Taiwan, and then the next day there was no Taiwan, it's China. And then the next day, you get billions of dollars of arms coming into Taiwan to defend themselves against China. It's good business. Now, the Taiwanese know, the Americans know, and we all know if tomorrow China invades and takes over Taiwan, the Americans will not lift a finger. Okay? No one in the world, no country in the world can defend Taiwan from China taking them over. No way. Nobody can stop them. But the Chinese have not taken them over because they play their own game. Why hurry up and eat fast? Let's have a leisurely lunch. Eat slowly and enjoy and relish. Like they have taken over Hong Kong. They have taken over Hong Kong. The British did not have the guts to stand up to them. They knew they would be beaten very badly. So they gave up, which they don't want to give up the Malvinas, Falklands to Argentina, a similar dispute. But here they gave up because they knew that they would be humiliated. Okay. Now, in the case of Taiwan, although America is selling billions of dollars of arms to them, the Taiwanese fate is sealed. It is inevitable. It's only a matter of time. The Chinese can take over Taiwan whenever they want. But the reason why they are delaying it is, fatten the chicken, more weight. Okay. So as Taiwan becomes more prosperous, more technologically advanced, it's better. You can have the whole big chicken instead of having this small one. The biggest producer of your iPhones is the Taiwanese company. Taiwanese are most advanced in all the hardware. Like we are good in software, the Taiwanese is one of the most advanced in hardware industry. Apple phones, semiconductors, chips, whole lot of things. So the Americans want Taiwan to develop and become more advanced technologically and economically. They can take the whole of Taiwan, a more prosperous, more technologically advanced one. And the Chinese are also playing another game. See, they tell everyone, don't recognize Taiwan. If anyone, any official from Taiwan goes, they get angry. Like when I went to Taiwan some years back, even as a diplomat, I couldn't take the Taiwanese visa in my diplomatic passport. There's a separate piece of paper, separate, secret one, which I had to show and then throw them it afterwards. I couldn't use my diplomatic passport. So Chinese are making a big song and dance about Taiwan as non-existence. And nobody should look at them, nobody should recognize them, nobody should deal with them. But the Chinese are doing billions of dollars of business with Taiwan. One of the largest investors in China is Taiwan. One of the earliest investors, even much before United States, is Taiwan. The Taiwanese companies employ hundreds of thousands of Chinese in the mainland. So they're raking in money, they're doing good business merrily. But they tell you, no, don't recognize Taiwan. That is magical realism. Now we come to the current show, Ukraine. So can anyone tell me about what's happening in Ukraine?
Sovereignty is being threatened by Ukraine trying to join into the NATO. So it revolted back by trying to show its might over.
Good, you are ahead. You know, day in and day out, you see the screaming headlines in newspapers, articles, columns, opinion pieces, editorials, saying Russian invasion of Ukraine, Russian war on Ukraine. So they blame everything on Russia. They say Russia is the culprit. That is magical realism. Because the truth is that it is not a Russian war on Ukraine. No, it is an American war on Russia. It is an American war on Germany. It is an American war on Europe. See, multi-guided missiles. They shoot so many people with one missile propeller. That is the truth. It is an American war on Russia, Germany, and Europe. Now, why this war on Russia? Because the Americans say we don't like communism, and nobody else should like communism. Nobody should have it. So they started this long back from 1915 onwards. And then after the Second World War, USSR became not only a large communist country, but also it became the second most powerful country with the nuclear weapons capable of hitting Americans. Okay, it became a threat to America. So the agenda of United States from that time onwards is to weaken Russia, to reduce their strength, and now, of course, do regime change, throw out Putin, cause confusion. They almost did this in 1991. After the collapse of the Berlin Wall and the Soviet Union collapsed, you had this alcoholic madman called Yeltsin. He became president for a while. And he was drunk and he didn't know what was happening. So at the time, the Americans had infiltrated the Soviet system and took away many scientists with the dollars. They brought in Goldman Sachs and all these big banks to run the Russian system. And of course, they did their work. They made Russia go bankrupt at the time. They do good work. And so they wanted to destabilize Russia, weaken them, ensure that they would never become a threat to United States again, and set an example for everyone else. So that is the agenda. Okay, they almost did that in 89 to 91, but then Putin came out, and he's a strong guy, and he's not only strong, he is a product of the real Russia, which had a solid history, one of the greatest empires. And not only that, the country which had suffered the maximum killings, deaths, casualties, and destruction in the two world wars is Russia. They had suffered the worst in World War One, World War Two, and even before that, Napoleon. So everyone wants to hit Russia and kill them. So the Russians have suffered the worst. They are the victims of aggression, invasion, and wars from other countries. They had suffered the worst. So they are paranoid about their security. They don't want any missiles in Ukraine or in the neighboring countries. So even if the Americans don't trigger them, some mad guy in one of these countries, he can do. Okay, so Russia is extremely sensitive, justifiably, because of this historic experience of having suffered for no reason of theirs. They didn't go and attack anyone. It's the other guys who came and attacked them. Okay. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, also their Warsaw Pact collapsed. Now, the Americans and the West European, they formed NATO, basically to counter Warsaw Pact. But when Soviet Union collapsed, when Warsaw Pact collapsed, there was no need for NATO. So they gave some assurances. Don't worry, no, we won't do anything. We won't come near you. But then they did whatever they wanted to do. So it is a war. It's an American war on Russia, on the shoulders of poor Zelensky, poor Ukraine. Has any of you seen this Netflix serial called Servant of the People? Guys, you're all very serious, no? You don't see movies. Of course, I'm a retired guy. I see a lot of them. You must see this serial called Servant of the People. It's in Netflix. It's very long. It's 3 seasons, some about 60, 70 episodes. I have seen everything. It's a fascinating serial. It's one of the best comedies and satires I have seen. This Zelensky is a great actor, and he is also as a part of the production team, and they have done it very well. It's a satire on politics. In the movie also, Zelensky, I'll tell you a bit of a story, not too much, otherwise we'll lose the suspense. Zelensky is a history teacher in a school. When you teach history, you teach not only about the past, but also what's happening now. So when some journalist comes and asks him, he erupts in anger and says, look at our country, such a great country with great history. It has become so corrupt and the economy has collapsed. We are in very poor shape, all because of this politics. He raves and rants and shouts and screams. One of our students like you saw this and you video recorded it. And it went viral. Okay? Millions of Ukrainians saw it. And then the people rose, said, hey, Zelensky, you should become the president. Huh? Since you know what is wrong with the system, you should become the president. So they elect him as president. Okay, but he becomes president with all true noble intentions and pure desire to serve the country and be a servant of the people. But he is not allowed to do anything by those corrupt oligarchs, these big rich families who are controlling politics. So they do rings around him, they fool him, and they surround him with people who mislead him. So he's totally lost, and they trap him in a scandal, and he gets scared and resigns. And then they go after him and put him in a jail. Now, this is a small part of this movie, the serial Servant of the People. Now, if you see that one, and what is happening over there is not much different, except that one actor is missing, United States. They're only the local actors, and they even Angela Merkel and European Union, the Europeans are there. It's a fantastic satire and comedy and something to think about. And unfortunately, they have no time to think about the poor Ukrainians are getting killed and they are suffering. So it is not a Russian war on Ukraine, it is an American war on Russia. And then I said, it's an American war on Germany. Why? Because Germany, they were the scoundrels who started the world wars, right? So you have to put them down. So they have been emasculated. They are not allowed to have their own army. And they have been controlled using NATO. They have to report to NATO, NATO controls. Americans have got over 50,000 troops in Germany. Okay. So they want Germany to be perpetually under their control and domination. Fine. Okay. But they go beyond that. They say you should not buy gas from Russia and you should not become dependent on gas from Russia. What the hell is this? If Germans want to buy cheaper Russian gas and become dependent on them, what is the problem with the Americans? After all, the Americans do roaring business with China and they are dependent upon China. If the Chinese stop supplies to Walmart, there will be no Christmas in America. They are so dependent. If you go to supermarkets in America, you should not look for what is made in China. You should look for what is not made in China. Very, very few. So they are so dependent. We are dependent on the Middle East for oil supply. So every country is dependent on somebody or other. But these Americans have the guts to tell the Germans, oh, you should not be dependent on Russian oil. So they imposed sanctions on this Nord Stream 2 oil project, pipeline project. And they did not impose it after the war started in February. They started in 2019. And it was not just on the spur of the moment or a knee-jerk reaction. It was discussed in the Congress. There were people who were lobbying for it among the Republicans and the Democrats. And it was a calculated decision to impose these sanctions on companies, not only Russian companies, any European companies, Italian companies, German companies, to do this work. And when it was being almost completed, what kind of nonsense is this? When they have spent billions of dollars in building a pipeline to bring the gas, and when it is about to be inaugurated, you go and say, no, we don't like it. So you stop it, your sanctions. So that is the high-handedness and the war of US on Germany. They not only want them to be without army and their strength, military strength, and they want them not to do anything which these people don't like. Very simple. Then I also said it is an American war on Europe. Why? Because Europe, which started these two world wars and made life miserable for everyone in the world, and they thought after the end of Cold War, after the collapse of Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact, finally we are free. We have no threat. We have this great ally and friend, America, the land of democracy, human rights, and high moral values. So now hereafter, milk and honey will flow through Europe, and we don't need guns. They thought now the future is going to be peaceful. We don't need any army. Okay, so they didn't want NATO. And if at all they needed something to tackle some issues somewhere or other, they thought, why have this NATO? Why have an American commander breathing down our neck? So we can all do ourselves. So we have a collective European defense forces, which can be used for some short-term assignments. So they thought we will become autonomous in foreign security policy. We will become more independent. We don't have to be subservient and be a slave of American foreign policy and security policy. Let's have our own European security policy. The Americans don't like it. So Europe needs a threat. They need an enemy. They need a danger. So they have manufactured it with this Ukraine crisis. Okay? So it's a perfect one, perfect opportunity. The Americans could be sometimes ruthlessly efficient. So they have, with one stroke, they are shooting at Russia, they are shooting at Germany, and they are shooting at Germany. Plus, there's one more. Because now Russia has become a threat for Europe and to civilization and to democracy, all those countries around, they're all afraid. So they say, okay, buy billions of dollars of arms from us, please. So it's good sale, good business. I don't know if you heard of this military industrial complex in America. So make money on wars. Wars, you and I think war means what? Death, bombs, killings. But in America, for some people, it's money, dollars. It's like casino, They like the sound of money falling after war. Okay? So there is this military industrial complex, the companies which are making arms and ammunition, plus also even other companies. Like, for example, in Afghanistan, I said they spent $2 trillion. It didn't all go to making bombs. It went to McDonald's to supply to the soldiers, and it went to Coca-Cola, and everyone shared the money. So war is business for them. So now the American military industrial complex is so happy that they can sell billions of dollars of arms to all these countries in Europe so that they can protest against this magical realism of threat from Russia. Okay. Now, the reason why they have chosen Ukraine is Europe is because they wanted a change of scene, the Americans. They had this Afghan war, which went on for 20 years, from 2001 to 21. They said, let's change for fun. The Americans had destabilized Asia with Vietnam War, Cambodia, Laos. Hmm? They had done 1,000 times worse things than what the Russians do in Ukraine. They used napalm bombs to destroy forests because the guerrilla fighters were in the forest. So they destroyed a whole lot of forests. Still, Vietnam has not come out of the scares of the war. So the ecological destruction. Then the Americans destabilized Latin America. They called it as their backyard. They played around, overthrew democracies, put up dictators. They had fun. And then they went to Middle East, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Iran. In Africa, you have in West Africa, you have so many coups because all these guys who do coup, they've all been trained in United States, many of them. Okay. Now, having destabilized all these continents, they thought, oh, this time let's do something to Europe. Let's have some fun there. Huh? And so it's not going to end tomorrow. Your cooking oil price will not go down because, like in Afghanistan, they spent 20 years. Here, they will do 40 years. The reason why they will do 40 years is because their soldiers are not being killed. They are not losing any lives. They are not taking any casualties. Whereas in Afghanistan, or 50, 60,000 of the Americans died. Of course, hundreds of thousands of Afghans died. But here it is bloodless war for them. For America, it's they will fight the Ukraine war till the last Ukrainian. So they will prolong this to destabilize Europe, to make money by selling arms. But in the process, they have created another monster, China. Because while the Americans are screwing themselves and the world, China is quietly becoming bigger and stronger, technologically more advanced. What's the time now? Huh? Oops, more than an hour. Oh, I think I should end here. Anyway, the other episodes of this world, the serial of international affairs with MTMR. You have a lot of other examples. It can go on. Like you have the Ukraine war. You have this, for example, you have war on drugs. Americans have a war on drugs. How do they fight? They fight with helicopter gunships in Colombia. They kill Pablo Escobar. You seen Netflix serial, Narcos? Huh? You all think that Pablo Escobar is the villain and the American DEA agent is the hero. That's bullshit. Drugs is a multi-billion-dollar business in America. Over $200 billion. It is a consumer-driven business. It's a demand-driven business. Millions of Americans spend money and consume. Okay. Now, out of every $100 involved in the business of drugs, $80 remain within America. Okay. Distribution, retail. Only $20 go out of America, of which $15+ go to the traffickers and suppliers. And 5 less goes to the growers of coca leaves. So it is this $80 which sustain this drug business within America. And it is the consumer driven. So no Colombian goes and puts drug in the mouth of the Americans. No. The Americans pay happily money and put it themselves and die. It's their business. Huh? So the Colombians say, what the hell? If these Yankees want to pay for their death, let's make some money. We are not doing any killing. They themselves. No one is forcing Americans to consume drugs. Okay. But the Americans say, no, because you are growing coca leaves in Bolivia, that's the problem. So we should do aerial fumigation. So we will send you the planes and we will fumigate with the harmful chemicals. And they destroy the agriculture. And the Bolivians say, okay, you destroyed this area, we'll go and grow elsewhere. They're angry. Huh? And then there is the other side of the coin. Now they say drugs come from Colombia, Mexico into United States. A country which has the most advanced security, wall and X-ray machines, everything in the world. No one has anything better than them. But it comes. This is magical realism. Okay, and it doesn't pay any taxes. Okay, but then what happens? These people who supply the drugs from Mexico, they fight with each other. They need guns. Okay, now if you want to buy a gun in Mexico, a country of 110 million people, there's only one gun shop in the whole country in Mexico City, and that is controlled by the army. You can't even enter freely. Only one gun shop run by the Mexican military is difficult to buy. Okay, but in the Mexico-US border, there are 20,000 gun shops on the American side. 20,000 gun shops. So any American can buy 20, 30, 50 guns, no problem, and you can sell it at a profit. And they don't mind if Mexicans kill each other. What is their problem? They get the profit. For each gun, they get $100. Okay. And the money, after all, you have to pay the $20 to the traffickers. How does that go? What magic is that? The magic is called Citibank and other American banks. They launder the money in Mexico and in the border states. So the drug trade is facilitated and worsened by the supply of guns and dollars, cash dollars from America to Mexico and to other parts of South America. But the Americans don't do anything about it. Now, if you take drugs, only you die. Or if you give it to your friend, he dies. That's it. Whereas with a gun, you can shoot 50 people, like you might have seen in the news reports. They shot 19 school children. They shot people in the stadium. A single gun can kill so many people. Okay, that is much more dangerous any day than drugs, which is a suicide. Whereas guns, you kill other people. Okay, but the Americans, through Netflix serial, that Narcos, they have brainwashed all of you that Pablo Escobar is the villain and the DEA agent is the hero, which is pure nonsense. Of course, it's magical realism. They have completely changed the narrative to make the world believe that the villains of this drug is Colombians and Mexicans, and they are the poor victims. Absolute bullshit, right? Okay, they have other wars also, phony wars, like wars on terrorism. You don't know what's going on underground. And they got wars on corruption. You might have read about the raiding of the FIFA office in Switzerland or the FIFA offices in Latin America. And many of the presidents and office bearers of football federations in Latin America, they're gone to jail. It's all started by FBI in America. And Americans don't play soccer. It's not their game. Huh? But they don't like other people enjoying themselves. Well, anyway, I should warn you on two things, sort of caution you. I have talked about the American atrocities. That does not mean America is a bad country. I love America. Okay, it's a great country. Huh? It is only a small section, this military industrial complex, which does these atrocities. But the rest of America, you have many things to admire. And not only admire, they allow people like Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai to become the big bosses there. Or Indra Nooyi, she beat all the American women and became the topmost powerful women in a conventional business of selling sugar drinks. Huh? What's called Pepsi Cola. Okay, Indian can, becomes CEO of Microsoft or Google because the Indians have some brains. But to sell Coca-Cola, Pepsi Cola, you don't need brains. No? Kidding. Okay. So that's a male-dominated American conventional business. And in that business, Indra Nooyi from Chennai, she went and did all the dog fights with everyone. And it was not by accident that she became the CEO of Pepsi. She was groomed by the Americans. And her only problem was whether to wear a sari or to wear an American dress. You should read her autobiography. Okay. She tells one of the things which she says is when she got a big promotion and became CEO, she came late to home and full of excitement to tell her mother, become a big boss. She opens the door. Her mother, when she comes, her mother opens the door and says, "Mom, shut up. Before you say anything, go and buy milk. It's run out in the fridge." We'll talk about everything afterwards. So like that, Indians had been given the opportunity to go to the highest levels. It's a great country, great technology, great economy, great role model. So don't become cynical about America because of these stories. Okay. And the second thing is you should okay, I'll do that one. Okay. That gets a little more complicated. Okay. So I think I will finish my talk with this one. And so one thing, don't become cynical or anti-American. It's we have to be smart in India in its foreign policy has to be, you can't say that, oh, America is bad, you are doing this, you don't like, So you have to, they are the big boys, they will screw you. So you have to be careful, you have to be smart, you have to play with them, you have to play with the managed relations with China, you have to deal with Pakistan. We have to be generally making smart choices, be pragmatic, not bound by any old ideology or old orthodoxy. So that's the way to go. And you, in your personal agenda, I told you what to do. Cheers. Celebra la vida. And what's the last one? R. Huh? Relax, roar, and rejoice. Thank you very much. Lord. If you have, I'm told I have to go down for the question and answer session. I'll do for another half an hour. And any case, oh, I see. Okay, yeah, please. Now you can shoot.
Okay. Now, recently, with the installation of leftist government in Colombia and also in the nearby countries as well, can we say that the American influence is reducing a little bit, or it can be a counterattack on the proxy wars like war on drugs?
Well, I suspect you read my article.
The week, sir.
I wrote one recently about this. You see, there is this, we all use fancy words left, right. Socialism, capitalism, Marxism, and all kinds of isms, neoliberalism, and so on. But the thing is, the leaders of the countries have to see the conditions of the country, the level of poverty, the level of illiteracy, health issues, and you have to choose whatever is the most optimal model to bring people out of poverty and to create wealth. After all, you can't be 100% socialistic. To distribute wealth, first you need to create wealth. And governments are lousy in creating wealth. So you have to let the private sector some space for them to create wealth. So it has to be done as jointly, collaboratively. Now, but then this is easier said between us than being actually done by politicians and governments. Now, in India also we go through it, but not in that kind of stark terms. Like in Kerala, you have a Marxist government. In West Bengal, you had a Marxist government. You had experience. In Latin America, this is a bigger show. Yeah, after all, they are the magical realism experts. See, what happened was in their many big countries, they were dictatorships. Their democracies were overthrown, destabilized by United States. And so till 80s, they had political military dictatorship, economic crisis. So this whole region was in a mess. And then in the 80s, they started coming to civilization. The military went to the barracks, and the elections were held. Countries became democracies. Even now, out of the 31 countries in the region, Latin America and Caribbean, there is no military dictatorship. Only Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, they have kind of civilian authoritarianism, but no military dictatorship like you have in Myanmar, a kind of thing. So it's a new paradigm. So since 80s, they have become democratic. And when you become democratic, what happens? When you are authoritarian, if somebody asks for food, you shoot him, okay? If anyone protests, you shoot him. But in democracy, you can't shoot them. So people come on, you want food, you want water, you want electricity. So, and you need their votes. So you have to respond to them. So it is natural for these elected democratic politicians in the 90s and later to respond to these aspiration of the people to do poverty alleviation and do social welfare programs. they did that, but then they also went overboard. So, like Chavez became crazy, he became authoritarian. In Brazil, there was a big corruption scandal. So then there was the other cycle. This Bolsonaro got elected in Brazil. Absolutely crazy. He's worse than Trump. And it happened. But then these rightist people also couldn't solve any of those things, and they wouldn't care about the poor people. So the people have realized, okay, now we should bring the leftists back. So they're lesser of the two evils. Like the Americans have a saying, once the Secretary of State told the President of the United States, this Nicaragua is a dictatorship, and Dominican Republic is also a dictatorship. But why are you supporting Dominican Republic? But why are you opposing Nicaragua? He said, both are sons of bitches, but this guy is our son of a bitch. Okay. So like that, the people thought that, the leftists are our SOBs. So they care for people a little more. So that is why now you find leftists getting elected and re-elected in the major countries, which is good. But I think ideally, I find the best example is Chile. When you talk about left-right fight ideology, in Chile, I don't know if they do in Tamil Nadu, DMK, DMK. And there, one term they elect the rightists, the next term they elect the leftists. That they have been doing for the last about 20 years or so, which is working out well. But fortunately, neither the rightists nor the leftists are extremists. They don't go beyond the point. So they are within reason, within moderation and pragmatic. But they get changed every 5 years or so. Yep. Hmm? Well, their fate is sealed. They have to be with Pakistan, just like these guys on our side, our SOBs. Sorry, kidding. I think the best thing in the future is that they keep theirs and we keep ours. Yeah, I agree. Why do you want them? Already we have what? How many billions we have? 1.2 billion people. Why do you want more people? So, why do you want this Pakistan occupied Kashmir people into India? We already have more people. We have more problems. Why get more problems? I agree. And there is no solution for this. You see, because this Kashmir issue is eternal. It will go on and on. Because that is not a disease, it is a symptom. If Kashmir is not there, there will be something else. But the guys who really make money out of this Kashmir issue is not Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan is not a real threat for us. We're a little country, we can manage it. But it is the Americans and the Chinese. They are the ones who, like Americans are using Zelensky to fight war on Russia. The Americans and the Chinese, they use Pakistan and the Kashmir issue, not a war on India, but then to make us as suckers. You see, in Pakistan, while we had proper democracy and elections, the generals always salute the prime minister, but it is the other way there in Pakistan, because the Americans had spoiled them. The Americans had dealt with the military people directly. They invited them, spoiled them, corrupted them, and emboldened them to overthrow democracy, because it was easier to deal with military people for the military industrial complex in America. So they liked Pakistan. And even one of our biggest problem with America is the State Department. You know what is State Department? That is the Foreign Ministry of United States. When India is dealt with by some Assistant Secretary of State there. It's a middle level officer in the American State Department. He goes to Pakistan. Everyone salute and a red carpet, and they give a real nice Kashmiri carpet as gift, and and they treat them like royalty. They're very happy. And then they cross the border, come to India. They ask, "What is your designation?" Assistant Secretary of State. Okay, you meet our Joint Secretary. Okay, so and they hate it, and they go to the Joint Secretary. He talks like me, all anti-American things. Oh, you did this, you did that, you did that. Okay, so the American is displeased. So he goes back to State Department, writes a nasty report about India. The Indians are mean. They don't respect America. They are anti-American. But look at the Pakistanis. They're so nice people. They like guns like we like. And, so that is how there is a very strong lobby within the American State Department who like Pakistan. But this is a smaller thing. But the bigger issue is the Americans had deliberately allowed Pakistan to become stronger and a threat to India. That way, they can control India. They can make us become dependent upon them. Like in the 1962 war with China, at that time we went running, begging to the Americans, and they gave some help. So they don't want India to become too big, independent, and be a role model for other developing countries. So that is a long-term agenda. So by giving arms to Pakistan, so if they buy F-16, we have to buy something equivalent. And so earlier we were buying from Russia, but now we have started diversifying and we have started buying from them. So they sell more to us. So they want us to be their client to buy arms. And it is a never-ending one. Okay. The moment they give something to us, they give something to Pakistan, and this arms race, they keep it up. And China, of course, China, they do it not for money, but because they want to put India down. India is a big democratic role model. So they create Pakistan as a threat for us to constantly needle us and cause problems for us. But they are not the only villains. Even the Russians do it. Even the Brazilians do it. The Brazilians sold some missiles to Pakistan. The Russians sold some weapons to Pakistan. We go and very sheepishly ask them, please, why do you give? I said, no, it's just arms sales, But then Indians being clever, we tell them that, you have not invented any gun which points only in one direction. It can also go to the other direction, and they can become even more angry with us. So the major powers, United States, China, UK, France, they all want Pakistan to continue as a threat to India forever. Ever. It is their eternal policy. Okay? Don't be carried away by this bullshit called, oh, we are democracies, you are democracies, and we like you, you like us, Don't believe any of that. All those huggings. Okay, that doesn't help. Basically, United States, China, UK, France, they want to make money by selling arms to Pakistan and to India. They will always undermine your security. They will always help Pakistan. They will always make you feel threatened. Like, for example, today, suddenly you find in the last few months, the American media is full of articles carried in Indian media also saying that, oh, there is China's threat in the border. But it's been going on for years. It's not happening now. But they are hyping it now to make us feel insecure that we need America. Okay, so that is the game. So, so you can never ever trust these big powers. They always try to make you feel insecure. Like, for example, you might know about this North Korea. Hmm? So the Americans say, oh, a threat, they have missile, they have ICBMs and all kinds of things. It's bullshit. North Koreans don't have the capacity to feed themselves. They don't have capacity to have agriculture, industry, nothing. There is nothing there. What the North Korean missiles and arms and ammunition they have is all Chinese. The Chinese have given them the technology. They make everything and they put the label, not made in North Korea. Why do they do that? To be a threat to Japan, because Japan had invaded China. So they don't forget. That is the main thing. And also South Korea. South Korea is also becoming more advanced and, they feel high. So they want to put them down. So they use North Korea to threaten primarily Japan and to South Korea. And you know who is supporting this Chinese devilish North Korean adventure? United States. You don't read about it. But the United States is super happy with North Korea's missiles because the Americans have their forces in Japan. Japan has been emasculated like Germany. They don't want them to ever have army because they have suffered Pearl Harbor. Okay, so the Americans want Japan to feel always insecure, feel threatened, and they cannot go and threaten them. They are happy. North Korea is doing it. So the Americans are colluding with the Chinese to continue this North Korean threat on Japan and to some extent Korea. It's a game. As they say in America, if you are not on the high table, everyone discusses all this, you will become a menu on the table. They will eat you. Okay? Anything else? Yeah? 1 o'clock we finish, huh?
Hello, sir. Are you hearing? Are you hearing me?
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Yeah, nice to meet you today. I'm just curious to ask you that even though seems like we are in good relationship with the other countries, like bigger countries, America, America, Russia, China. When you are as an ambassador or as a IFS officer, when you are trying to go and promote your agenda or our government agenda, there will be some disagreement with their foreign political leaders. So what did the how did you tackle that disagreement to promote your agenda, whatever you are taking to them?
Good. Very good question. Very good diplomatic question.
Thank you.
The most exciting post. You hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
You hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
I had done postings in some 9 countries, but professionally, the most exciting posting I had done was in Pakistan. I was posted in Karachi in 81, 83. It was so exciting. I had a very colorful boss, Manish Shankar Iyer. You heard of him? This politician who was my boss. He was from foreign service. So before going to Pakistan, I read all books about Pakistan, how bad they are, how they divided the country. Okay, all kinds of nonsense I read. Okay, then I go, I have a meeting with the boss. So he asked me, so what do you think about Pakistan? So I started, all my wisdom. I told him how Pakistan is a bad. You must tackle them. So he listened to all that very patiently and said, he said, Vishwanathan, you have accumulated a lot of garbage. Okay, you should go and clear them up. You should have an open mind. Okay, you should do your work without prejudice, dispassionately. You should analyze. That is the job of a diplomat. If you are an ideologue, you carry your agenda. If you are a communist or a RSS, you have your agenda. You believe in it 100%. Okay? But a diplomat does not have the luxury. He has to be diplomatic. He must be conscious of what is your goal. Now, what is our goal with Pakistan? To abuse them that, oh, you're bad. Or hit them. If they are not able to hit you now, when they become stronger, they will hit you more. Okay? And you have to live with them. It's not Guatemala, 15,000 kilometers away. They are your neighbors. And you have to live with them. So, what is your objective? Your first objective is that you should not allow yourselves to be hit and damaged by them a lot. You should minimize it. That they don't create enough problems for you. You should not allow them to vitiate and distort your agenda. Because you have your own aspirations to become a great country, to develop your agriculture, green revolution, industrialization, technology, foreign policy, global profile. You have a bigger agenda. So you should not waste your time and energy in doing little fights, and they say one thing, you say another thing, that kind of thing. Then you become equal to them. And we are not equal to them. We are much bigger. They are a one agenda country, but we have a bigger agenda. So Manishankar Iyer advised me, keep this in perspective. Okay? Now, if you have to do business with them, how do you do business? Don't go and bark at them. Don't go and argue with them. Don't go and say that, oh, you are wrong. Oh, I am right. Okay? So, go and make friends. Be nice to them. That's what I did. I had befriended Maulana Nurani. I had friends with so many people. And I used to carry whiskey bottle in brown paper, go to the Karachi Press Club, give it under, and they would take it and mix it with the Coca-Cola, and with the kebabs. The best kebabs are from Pakistan. Okay? And I had a great time. I made lots of friends. At one time, I used to say that I had more friends in Karachi than in Delhi. And this Maulana Nurani, he used to organize agitations, protests against the Indian consulate from time to time. But before his stormtroopers came, he would call me and say, Sahib, our boys are coming. Don't worry, they won't do much, but just one. That's it. So you have to be very clear about your own goal and your own aspirations, and don't allow that to be hijacked and sidetracked and diverted by a little Pakistan. Okay? Be nice to them, cultivate them, but if they hit you, hit them harder. Okay? That you do quietly. When outside you talk nicely. Okay, that's my experience.
Yeah, continuation of that question. I have another question. Sorry for troubling you again. So, for example, if they are not agreeing your agenda 100%, so what you do? What you did for making them to agree 100%, or in, for example, they agree only 80% of your agenda, and you come back to our country just like that, or you have to make them to keep them agreeing for your agenda as a IFS officer?
Oh, this is basically common sense, like you want to study computer science, but your parents say that no, you must study, become a doctor. What do? So you negotiate and you see what is the win-win for both sides. What is the optimum one? You can't have 100% of yourself, what you want. Okay. At the same time, you cannot make the other people lose and get 0%. Then it will have longer term repercussions. So you have to see what is the most optimum solution, what is the mix. Like I told you about this, uh, uh, the Latin American model of governance by President Lula, which is called as, I call it as Brasilia consensus or Lulaism, is a contrast to the Washington consensus. Washington consensus, neoliberalism. You privatize everything, reduce the tax, let the rich people become richer and the poor become poorer. So, that is neoliberalism. That is capitalism without limit. Socialism is, you screw up everyone in the name of socialism by mismanaging everything. So what Lula did was he found this formula of 60-40. 60% socialism, 40% capitalism. You need, as I told you, for distribution of wealth, you need to first create wealth. I also told you the governments are lousy in creating wealth. So you have to let the private sector. Ambani is smarter. Okay. So you give space, encouragement for the private sector to grow, build industries, create jobs, skill the people, create wealth, and then they pay more taxes. Today, the highest taxpayer is what, Ambani? Okay. So take that money. The more business he does, the more tax he pays. And that use it for distribution to give a helping hand to the poor. So like that, you have to find your own formula. How much will the Pakistanis accept? You can't tell them that, no, you give us your POK to us. They won't. So no. Okay. So you have to see how much they can live with losing and how much we can give without too much. Okay. So this it depends on situations.
Sure. Thank you so
Got
much.
it?
Yeah. It is nice to meet you today. Thank you.
Good luck. Now it's 1:00. One. Okay. What's that? Yeah, as I said, you have to find the optimum, and it is not written in stone. You see, the Soviets helped us in 1971, otherwise we would have been screwed by the Americans. Okay, so we have to be grateful, but in the name of gratitude, you cannot, defend what the Russia is doing. Okay, so everyone like us, even us, we think that India is great, we are great people. You go and ask a Pakistani or a Nepali or Sri Lankan, they will have different words to say. Okay. And we also, for example, in our policy with the neighboring countries, we think that, oh, we have rescued Sri Lanka from the crisis, we have given billions of dollars of credit. or we have given so much to Bhutan, so much to Nepal, so much to Sri Lanka. Hey guys, you should all be grateful to us. We have given you so much. No one is grateful. And particularly these smaller countries, which is a commonsensical, normal approach. If I were Nepal or Bangladesh, I would play India versus China, India versus Russia, India versus United States. You make them compete and get the best out of them. That is what we used to do in the name of non-alignment. You see, he said you wouldn't join any team, but please show us what you can give us, and then we'll see. Okay, we had a great time. For example, at that time we went to the Americans, said, "Oh, we want to develop a steel industry." I said, "Why make steel? This is a very complicated process. You please buy from us." Okay, and then we went to the Russian. They gave us Belai, Rourkela, and so on. Okay, and same with the arms. But then you would be stuck with these things. So you need better ones. So you need to see your interests. You need. It's a dynamic game. You don't announce that you are part of this team or that team. So you have to have your freedom of maneuver to an extent it is allowed, and manage it smartly, discreetly. Oh, that is the job of a diplomat. You should join foreign service. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.